Hi guys, what's going on? It's me, sorta. We're back once again. It's been a while since I've actually done a live stream, so apologies that I may be a little off of the game for today. There goes my headphone. Somewhere. Where did that go? There it is. Oh. I need a little tidy up in this house. Or in my room specifically. But yeah, I'm gonna put this in. I'm kind of just trying to get used to my mic noise. It's been a bit weird, shall we say, getting it all set up for me on this setup, so apologies for if I sound weird and or worse than normal. I was trying to sort it out before the predictions. I tried to sort it out last week, but no, it didn't kind of work out. Anyway, I'm also just going to put my stream on my phone and put myself on 5G. Because the internet has been a bit all over the place recently. And, you know, I kind of need to sort that properly. Let me just get some music as well in the background. Some nice, just chill Royal E3. I'm definitely in a... This sounds probably quite good. And I'm not on the right. Ah, boy. There we go. So, bam, 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 bang. Let's go. Today, we have got for you guys KC versus Fnatic. We're going into draft between these two teams, and already I'm noticing that my shortcuts aren't working. Why aren't my pen shortcuts working? Because now it is. I just forgot to make it big. Okay. So let's go. Already we're seeing bans, because this is the first time we're looking at 14-11. And the bans already are looking quite spicy. Skarner's kind of risen up to priority, obviously, with the massive changes to how the champion works. So it's getting a lot more play, or being banned out more. We haven't actually seen it played once yet in the LEC, which is kind of nice. I'm just realizing the music isn't playing. So give me a second. Probably because it was paused. There we go. So let's go. So we have seen in week 1 already, Senna getting a bit more priority as a pick. It's a solid pick overall. And I realistically think that it is quite strong as an option. Yeah. Talia comes in first pick. Hui comes through as a response. A lot of people are starting to prioritize Hui. I think Caps as a whole kind of showcases that pick the best in the LEC. He's very good at landing the long range poke, which is something Talia tries to do as well as just poking around you down in lane. Senna comes through. I like it overall. You want to scale, you want to match the effectiveness that Fnatic have, because Hui scales quite well. Ivan scales exceptionally well in terms of providing safety and shielding to your team, and the way that Fnatic is setting up right now, they're certainly looking for an engage option in the bot lane to go alongside this Ivan, who will be trying to land Qs and in for Q hits. That means the champion's going to go straight in. You kind of expect a top side engage pick to go alongside it, or backline access orientated pick. Cassante, Camille come to mind when that option is talked about. Ornn's picked up here for Karmine Corp. Hopefully that's going to the bot side, and realistically speaking, it's a strong pick in terms of scaling, and you're kind of seeing the Karmine Corp style come into pieces here. They want to play for the late. Ornn comes through. That means you kind of want to hit the level 13, 14 mark where you start to get these masterwork items. You've got Desena, who's just going to be scaling infinitely. And Talia obviously has her own very strong scaling. Fnatic side obviously looking to try and get onto this backside quite easily with this Nautilus and Ivan combination. The Hwei coming through as well. Bans, no surprises here. Camille getting removed. Jax, I think, wouldn't be a terrible option as a ban here for KC coming into this phase. Xin getting removed here, so I think Jax may get picked up here if it's left open available. But it's interesting to see what Kana wants to go for, because this guy is new to the league, obviously. LCK top laner who's won that region before. It's certainly a nice change of pace to see him in this league, but hey, it is what it is. If we see him playing a tank, then we're seeing him play a tank. I think KC do need some frontline and some peel to come in for this lineup if they want to allow the amount of harassment. TF getting picked or banned away makes some sense. Looking at the rest of the draft, what do you need to lock in? Top and jungle. So jungle wise, there isn't too many top options left open available. I think Sedge, who has had the rework, is a preferable pick here. I know into Ivan, you're kind of slow. Ivan obviously, you want to try and punish the clear because he can't really contest you if you're in his jungle. So I think that, realistically speaking, they're going to draft a strong top side of the map here, KC, because they kind of need to distract him. Obviously, close a very strong carry, so Viego may even be an option for him because he is very good at that pick. Rek'Sai comes through, so that could honestly go into Kana's hand, but it's going to be revealed here. I think tank junglers maybe not the best option here for them. They're the ones who actually take the Jax, which I like overall for Kana. It's a strong pick, but I think that realistically speaking, yeah, Poppy's very good into this comp. Oscarinen's going to have an easy time into this. You think Weaver's Wall, counter pick, you just run the champion into the wall. You've got an Ornn trying to dash at you. You can stop him headbutting the Forge God back at you. You've got Rek'Sai tunnels that you can stop. You can stop Jax jumping at you. Overall, this is a very solid pick that counteracts what KC are trying to do. And originally I thought that Karmine Corp would just pick this poke comp and just try to scale and harass. They've kind of pivoted it away from that to go for a more engage, long range more so, engage comp, and try and get onto the backside and burst out these carries. Now, I think that it's going to be very hard for them to do that. You think about what Fnatic have to kind of push and keep away KC. They've got Nautilus who can peel. You've got Poppy who can peel. Ivan's going to be shielding up the carry, stopping any form of aggression onto Noah. And then you've also got Humanoid there as the AP damage format for the team, which realistically is what's going to keep Fnatic at pace and in a very solid position. Now, let's see how this one will pan out. I think there's going to be a huge amount of emphasis on the late game and the scaling factor that these two teams have. Topside's going to be probably where we focus, obviously. If you've watched the broadcast, that's kind of where they focus all the camera and attention to. So we may end up talking a bit more about top for once, because we technically, every time we're panning up there when we're talking about games, we talk about it being mainly just damage sponges up there. And coming into summer, new players obviously on the lineups. Oscarinin finding his footing in the league. We've had this talk about him as a player who realistically has grown. He looked shaky when he first came into the league, and honestly right now he is I'd say top 3 top laners in the league, arguably. So it's overall a massive transition of a player in a very short period of time, and he had a huge shoes to fill. Obviously came in replacing Wonder, and my dogs are barking like mad, but who cares. So let's take a look how this one will start. Expect Jax to have early push, the Counter-Strike just very prevalent early level, whereas Poppy probably will have Q. The shield will be a little bit more protecting for the Poppy, so she can go a bit more aggressive with trades, but the stuns that this Counter-Strike can provide, the denial of the passive auto that Poppy gets as well, realistically would be the reason why Jax would win early game. Now, obviously right now, level 1 slightly favors the Poppy due to the shield. However, Jax hitting level 2 will allow a lot more denial of CS, and personally speaking, will make it a little bit harder for Oscarinin to play. Having said that, Oscarinin's trading very aggressively into Kana, just not allowing him really any form of aggro. I'm just taking a brief look in at the junglers, and as a whole it looks to be full clears across the board. I think the Ivan clears slightly slower, obviously, because you're not really taking it. You've got to wait a few seconds before you can actually clear the camp, but he's slowly picking up the pace to the Rek'Sai, who obviously already in her second half clear. And I think that Oscarinin actually getting an early back off here is quite nice for him. You're probably going to see maybe a couple of potion pickups, if anything. But he's getting a Ruby Crystal. That's kind of a nice buy. Ivan's taking his first back as well, Dark Seal, which is pretty solid for him. So realistically speaking, clears actually looking fairly standard. Ivan actually is ahead now of this Rek'Sai in terms of the clear, but obviously Ivan took a base in that time, so full reset. And the Rek'Sai staying out on the map, gonna pick up her Scuttle Crab. Whereas top side, just looking at Poppy getting aggressed on. Just looking at the Rek'Sai's pathing, and Razor's actually matching. And so the trading, surprisingly, is in a very awkward state. And, sorry, the wave, I just say. The trading kind of favorable as Oscarinin, I'd say, gone a little bit too aggressive. Obviously, he throws the wave in a solid position for himself. He's bought Rek'Sai's attention, but it's now a 2v2. They're trying to fight. They get the flash out, but it's just easy for Closer to get the knock up. Now he's on the constant chase. Razor uses his shield, but knocked into the air. Jax gets the Counter-Strike, and it's a kill. Fnatic, I'd say overstep more than anything. Trying to force a 2v2 they don't need to fight. I think the interesting thing would have been is, obviously Oscar has this wave in this position stacking up, and he can kind of slow burn it and freeze it a little bit more, because he's certainly denying CS, but as a whole, giving over a kill. Jax can TP back now with a more of an advantage. He's also got double buff, so the Sheen prog's going to be even more impactful. The wave, while he has lost out on a few CS, he'll certainly pick this one up. The trades into the Poppy are going to be certainly more favourable, but as a whole, Oscarinin can't really step up into the wave too well. And pause. Okay, well, I knew this was coming, so there we go. We'll speed up back into the game, but as a whole, the matchup is looking fairly favorable now for Kana, even though Oscarinin is doing the right things in keeping the wave in a position of strength for him. Now, the objective here for Kana is to try and get it to crash. That's kind of his goal. He's gonna get a lot of damage down onto this Poppy. That's the aim of the game. Just keep chunking away Poppy so she can't step up into the wave. Use the double buffs that you've got, and just chill. That's how you kind of play this. The stuns are kind of your favorite here to try and keep Oscar in this situation where it's just awkward. Steadfast Presence comes up, so that's now down, so Jax can start to get a bit more aggressive. Oscar can't step up because he doesn't have that denial. Jax's Q's up a lot quicker than the Steadfast Presence. So as a whole, it's very solid. Now the top winning matchups coming into favour for KC because they're able to secure the grubs. And it's going to just transition down into more pressure, as Kana's now finally going to get this wave to crash unless Oscar pulls the wave away from tower, which is looking likely as he's stepping quite far forward. Bot side, 3-man dive coming down here on, defending it well, but I think the re-engage will come through, the hook lands, Ivan tanks it, so yeah, that was well juggled by Fnatic to get a pick back. It's good also that the kill went over to Noah, who, spoiler alert, in a center lane, it's really good for this Zeri, because A, constant pressure, center isn't the one farming, on is melee versus ranged, we've discussed a lot this year, but melee champions struggle into ranged, so the Zeri who will be constantly throwing the Qs at this on just will allow her to stack up this cool pretty quickly, and personally speaking, makes this matchup here a lot more favourable for the Zeri. We haven't actually looked at the mid lane yet, so let's talk about how that's going. Humanoid stacking up a bit of a CS lead for himself, and we haven't actually seen much of this matchup as a whole, but I think the Hui lane clear early is quite good. Obviously the QE, Molten, Fisher, very strong, as the lane's kind of been left in isolation. The Severing Bolt also can be used from range, so there's no real threat of a dive onto the Hui, so safe farming is obviously the name of the game for him. And he doesn't have a tier yet. He's actually building up towards that, I forget the name of the item, but the new burning damage spell item, as that will provide a lot more effectiveness in clearing and pushing as bot side. Bella's Breath gonna deny the dredge line as Razor's shown up bot, so Fnatic may start up this Drake. They're bringing up their bot lane, or the Nautilus is. Daisy's gonna tank it up, so they can just pull the Drake out of the pit using that. Zeri could be in threat of the dive, but not gonna happen. And it's topside proxy wave. Jax is that far ahead now because the matchup is so more favorable. He can proxy the wave a little better without the safety. Also with the fact that Ivan is showing on the bottom side, obviously throwing Daisy down onto this Drake and it being pulled out a bit. They know Ivan's down here. They know certainly there's 4 members of Fnatic down here. So the potential play is there. As Ornn goes forward, good Bellows Breath to deny the engage. The Dawning Shadow thrown over the top as the engage onto the backside comes through. As Rek'Sai's going to secure the first kill of the fight as the Call of Forge goes finally going through. Noah jumps on immediately with the Rek'Sai, and that's going to allow for Upset to secure the kill. Next up, it's going to be Razor who's pulled back with the Seismic Shove, and down he goes. Vladdy's getting on the board, and Karmine Corp pick up a clean fight for themselves. So, let's slow it down. First team fight that we've actually seen. Pretty clean from KC. The Drake goes over. I would say it's a very good Bellows Breath to deny the Nautilus. And then the Seismic Shove follow-up kind of denies any form of engage that Jun wants to do. I'm also intrigued at what level this Nautilus is, because I don't think I saw the depth charge coming out from him. Then it's just Senna cleaning up the fight alongside this Talia. The Seismic Shoves are on point, I should say, and Vladdy gets kills, and so does Upset. But the big interesting thing is a couple of summoners, big summoners, used there on the Karmine Corp side. Flash out from Vladdy. I'm pretty sure that's a big summoner out from the Senna. And yeah, I don't know at the start of the fight if... I'm actually going to check. So, I'm going to pause, just go back. I just want to see if Nautilus was level 6 for the start of that fight. Jun is. Okay, so he did have it. So, where did that actually end up? He does use it onto the backside, onto Vladdy. But it's not really doing too much. Call of Forge God's actually really good to secure basically Noah's demise. Because Rek'Sai comes through, executes. The dash through the wall makes you think that maybe Noah gets out, but the angle is kind of poor, all things considered. Could have tried and dashed over, like, the long bit of the wall instead of across it. But yeah, as a whole, it was a well-worked fight from KC, and you kind of see the power of their engage or re-engage comp, because there was more so Fnatic pulling the trigger there than KC. And the interesting thing was top laners weren't really a part of it, so the straight 4v4 fight, the full scaling comp that KC have, outperforming Fnatic there, certainly is strong for them. Now, already starting to see Void Grubs being contested as Rek'Sai's here, so's the Ivan. Shielding though from the Ivan very strong as the TP's gonna come through, and that's gonna be Oscarinin joining up with them. Dredgeline gonna come through as the knock up into the Piltover Peacemaker. Goodbye to the Ornn as well as close as Rek'Sai. That's gonna be a massive amount of damage down onto Poppy. Oscarinin force the flash. Where was Kana in all of this? He's split pushing bot side. He has TP on his own. Didn't use it, instead just trying to build up the solo advantage for himself. So, a little less team orientated from Kana compared to the rest of the team grouping up. It's interesting because Oscarinin's style is very much so team friendly and team based rather than solo push, and we see it here, TPing in on the ward, sorry, on Daisy, not the ward, gets in, the Ornn's being targeted to chase down into the Piltover Peacemaker. It's not the Piltover Peacemaker. I forget what it's called. I think it's got Judgment in its name. You're gonna have to Google that for me. But yeah, as a whole, it's a very solid play from Fnatic. They get themselves 3 grubs, so they tied that scoreline up. They also force a play, and realistically speaking, claw some gold back that KC had for themselves. So, as it stands, we're certainly looking at a very evenish state of game. Fnatic just behind barely, as a possible fight going to come through. TP is finally going to be used by Kana to come in and try and secure the pick. Call of Forge God gonna go through and land onto the TP'd in member, as it's actually going to be a 1-for-1, well, 2-for-1 trade. Wait. Is it 2-for-1 or 3-for-1? It looked like a 3-for-1, but Upset died in that. Humanoids killed him off on the side. I don't know how that happened. Hopefully we get a replay, because I don't think it was really that clear how that happened. Keeper's verdict! Hey, yes, I did just look it up. Anyway, I now learned something new, or remembered something. It's so hard to remember so many different ability names, like, especially with champions like Hui, where he's got 11. It's nuts. So, as it stands, we're in a very interesting stage of the game, as KC build a little bit more of a lead. It's actually somehow only 200 after getting a double kill. But yeah, what we are seeing is Fnatic trying to group up now, play as a team. Herald versus Drake's probably the likely trade we're going to see right now, as both objectives are up. Rek'Sai's on the Herald, and I'm pretty sure that the Ivan will slowly be starting up the Drake. Tower's also being traded across the board. I think the interesting thing about this trade is more so the tempo plays that are being built up here. For KC, we started off by saying have a very solid scaling comp that's very good at playing for late game. And they're trying to snowball so much to get themselves to the late game quicker with the fact that they're taking Herald. Now, it's interesting to me to say that because Fnatic are taking a very solid scaling approach for themselves as well. The Drake stack's providing that permanent boost for themselves, and with it being Ocean Soul, the amount of sustain that it's going to provide in this late game is certainly very hard to match if you're KC. So Fnatic are building their own form of scaling that is going to make it really hard for KC to do anything about them, because you look at this KC squad and the damage output they can do. If, let's hypothetically explain this, if Oscar Rinin or Jun get into the backline and just cause anarchy, it's going to be very hard for, let's say, the Senna or Talia to pump out consistent damage onto the carries of Fnatic. Because, let's be honest, Hui can play so far back, he doesn't really need to be involved in a fight to have an impact. Whereas Zeri is quite more also close and aggressive. She certainly has a decent amount of range in her kit to do a lot of burst and a lot of harassment when she is in a fight. Whereas if, let's say, let's look at the Karmine Corp side of things. For their engage, you got the Rek'Sai, the Jax, and then the Ornn. They need to do a lot of work to get onto the Hui, more than anything. Zeri's very slippery in her own right. So, personally speaking, when we get to these late game fights, it's going to be very hard for Karmine Corp to execute if Fnatic play this well. And with how their comp is set up and how, honestly, their bot lane's staying even, mid lane's in an advantage state for themselves, I think that as a whole, KC are going to need to try and do a lot if they're to try and dissuade the aggression that Fnatic have, or the scaling that Fnatic have with these Drakes. Now, the scaling factor and the snowball that KC are trying to form, obviously they've got Herald as a potential fight's going to come through here. Dawning Shadow going to be fired off as the TP's coming in. That's going to be Nautilus already getting the flash out from Vladdy. Call of Forge God used and doesn't really do too much as severing bolts downtown, lending from Humanoid. He's getting the harassment down. Remember, that is percentage health damage from that QW from this way. It does a lot of damage to lower the health bar you have, and it's going to just push KC away from this push. The play they were trying to set up, the Herald, where did that go? It certainly didn't get too much for them. I think that as a whole, KC invested quite a bit there. I mean, there isn't an objective on the table for another minute 20, but like, they invest quite a bit and get absolutely nothing. Now we sit at a stage of the game where actually Canna's advantage means nothing. Remember how that guy got first blood? Yeah, it means nothing. He's only ahead by 100 gold. Oscar Rinin's done well in kind of negating that advantage that was gained early against him and certainly impacting the map. All things considered, we spoke about Canna actually split pushing, trying to get objectives for themselves, but Oscar Rinin still managing to match up. So this is, he's getting props from me. It's a very well played game from him, and it certainly negated what this Jax is kind of doing. So coming into team fights now, Jax's impact I don't think is going to be too high. So yeah, now with Drake on the table, 4 members of Fnatic here. Oscar Rinin's already pathing down to this Drake. So he's joining up with the team. He has TP in... Well, he has TP, so if Kana stays split pushing, he can certainly provide effect. Well, he can kind of negate the split push by TPing up there. However, Kana has come down for this, so it's going to be a full 5-on-5. Oscarinen's being pushed away, so he's not able to get into the river to join up with his team, and it's this awkward splinter that KC putting Fnatic in. Oscarinen's jumped on, but he's so tanky, he lands a massive Keeper's Verdict, and already the health bar's close is already low. Kana's been killed off by Oscarinen. A massive Severin Bolt's just killed it off the jungler, so that should be Drake for Fnatic, but they're just turning straight to the Baron. No jungler, no smite, no contest. Clean fight from Fnatic, because they've just given nothing to KC, even though Oscarinen's just stood in front of them and tanked up so much damage. He's able to survive with that passive shield that he gets from his passive, and he just stood in front and just didn't allow anything. I think there was also a massive W from the Poppy to deny it, as this time it's just Jun tanking, standing in front of KC. Baron secured by Fnatic, and yeah, a clean fight from them. They sacrificed their support for Baron, which is overall a very worthwhile play. Now, Drake will possibly be secured here by KC. Fnatic's rollout is quite slow. Obviously, Oscarinen will get here, but he can't deny it. He is going to possibly march and watch them try and escape, but doesn't need to, and instead just goes back to the wave. So overall, I think we already discussed how bulky this Poppy is, but look at the items. Spirit Visage, Sunfire Cape, Steel Toe Caps with Negatron and Cloth Armor. Makes me think he's probably going to go Jack Shao as his third item. However, yeah, possibly stack up a bit more armor more than anything. So maybe even a Frozen Heart would be good against this Jax and this Rek'Sai, but may not need it. Keeper's Verdict's going to come through, just yeeting away a target. It's kind of split pushing in mid, but they're losing the base. The inhibitor tower being focused, but Kana's going to get onto an inhibitor tower, maybe. Obviously, Oscarinen's TP back to base to kind of deny that. He does have TP in his own right, so if a play does continue, he can join up. But Ivan Brush going to allow for the rest of Fnatic to back as well. And so Kana's push has been thwarted. So, with Baron in hand, KC on the back foot, and we kind of get to talk about this stage of the game and how they kind of play it here. On slowly but surely getting to a point of having their masterwork items to try and bring back some of the gold or item strength that Fnatic have right now. But the base is slowly falling in tatters. Demolish proc from Oscarinen gonna secure this tower. And personally speaking, the wave clear from KC, apart from the Talia and the Senna, minimal. Daisy can bully him out, as the Weaver's Wall's going to come through just to get Vladdy back in range, but realistically speaking, you want to be using that to trap in Fnatic, or chase down members when you get a fight started, not to get up to the lane where you should realistically have been already. Inhibitor number 2 falls, and Fnatic just on the front foot. They've utilized this Baron to perfection, to be honest. TP coming in behind. Dawning Shadows and the Call of Forge God used as well. He engages onto Fnatic, but they're turning. A massive Keeper's Verdict's going to launch away 2 members, and it's Closer who falls. What a big ult from Oscarinen in there to isolate off the jungler. 2 minutes until any objectives, however, and so Fnatic get a lot out of that play that was an overcommit from KC. TP was used there by Kana. They get absolutely shafted out the fight, and to be honest, Fnatic are just playing well. And I'm gonna be honest, Oscarinin is playing out of his mind, and he's kind of the catalyst for this team in these fights. He is kind of causing the go signals, and it's working well for them. Now, as a whole, KC, I would say, blundered this game a little bit. Bear in mind, we have said that they scale, and they started to try and play aggressive towards it, but I think, the big things that I'm noticing is the drafting options are quite painful. This Poppy is obviously an issue, and it's not really allowed for basically Kana to join up in these team fights or have any impact. Same with Closer, getting deleted quite quickly, and this is something of interest about Rek'Sai. Obviously, before MSI and slightly during it, it was a powerhouse in the top lane. Now relegated back into the jungle, and the build hasn't differentiated too much since. As never mind, we're gonna get a fight, and Master Keeper's Verdict's gonna yeet Yorn out before the Call of Forge God can come through. And that's actually just going to stop the fight. Fnatic back away. Start a bit of a siege onto this inhibitor tower on the top side, but nothing much other than that. Look at how many wards have just been lit up over here, by the way. Like, all of these can be cleared out for probably a decent chunk of gold. 1, 2, 3. That's like 3 wards, so that's 75 gold there. Or 60 gold, just sitting readily available for KC to pick up. All scattered in one place. But, to be honest, Baron's on the table, so's Drake. I think there's more prio on this Drake. Not Drake, Baron. As no one's really getting sold. Spiraling Despair thrown out onto Yorn, and he flashes, causing a lot of damage down onto Upset. Targamas misplaying that a little bit. Fnatic setting up for the fight. Daisy's dropped down to tank up the damage. And now Fnatic are on the hunt. Trying to isolate off this Ornn. Not allowing to fight, as that's going to be a massive amount of damage down. They've caught out Oscarinin, but he's just content with taking the damage. Quite low, Dawn Shadow thrown out, and there's a lot of ultis down on the KC side. The engager's going to come through, Cold Forge God's going to go through as well, and now KC looking to get the damage down, but they're not doing enough, and it's going to be Kana who falls first. This Poppy's too hard to kill, and she's already getting onto the backside, as down goes the Talia. Ornn's next to follow. The brambling roots won't land onto Upset, as Ivan continues to chase, and Fnatic, they find the kills. 3 members down and are in the base. They're onto the Nexus towers. And this should be game over and done with. Where's the rest of KC? They're backing. They're only just getting back. Closer's not able to do too much, as the 5-man stack of Fnatic end off that opening game of the season. Let's be honest. Tank too strong. That's the easy way to word that one. Oscarinin just was very, very powerful as a player. And realistically, if we did discuss that game as a whole, I kind of, it's right for the focus on the top lane. And is kind of going to be a very solid player in the LEC. That was the discussion. Is he LEC caliber? Or is it just getting formulated into the league? I think the interesting thing that we saw in this game was going up against, I'd say, top 3 top laner this year in Oscarinin. The other two being Irrelevant and Broken Blade. going up against one of them three, and okay, you get handed first blood, and your jungler is kind of the carry-orientated player of your team. It's an interesting formula that I don't think worked too well. I think that Kana's impact in the game was kind of thwarted. I'd much rather have seen, honestly, a Cassante. Just the ability that Cassante has to get onto the backside and or just dissuade the engage, Gragas even. Just something that can make Poppy irrelevant would have been so much better. But instead, Poppy just annihilated. And I also think that the jungle pick in Rek'Sai kind of was a misplay, all things considered. So, KC have to go back to the drawing board and think about how they draft. I think drafting is a huge thing that they need to focus on. I think we saw an interesting game out of Vladdy. I mean, he was bullied a little bit, obviously, against Humanoid, who is a top mid laner for the league, but he didn't really get any jungle attention, and Humanoid got a lead outright against him. Maybe that's a bit of an issue, but to be honest, if you're not able to kind of match in lane, clearly A, you misplayed your lane. Like, you're playing Talia, who's arguably one of the strongest mid laners currently in the game. If you've basically given over so much of an advantage over to a Hui, maybe that's a you issue. And the other thing is, the thing about Talia's goal as a champion is to be able to roam and affect lanes. Personally speaking, we didn't really see that out from her. Like, if she was to maybe join up with Kana and closer and force a tower dive topside onto this Poppy after getting first blood, then seriously, it would have honestly have led to a bigger snowball and a scaling factor of KC coming into effect quicker, because Kana could have then impacted fights a little better. It would have also meant that this Talia came into fights with a bit more of an advantage and able to burst out a carry if someone jumped on them. But instead, what we ended up seeing was just Fnatic, after a shaky fight in the mid game, coming back, getting kills, and then steamrolling through the game. And they didn't really need a Baron to end it. They just kept applying pressure and forcing KC to make mistakes and getting caught out. Simple as that. And Fnatic played well. I've got to give a lot of credit to how they kind of really played through Oscarinin in terms of him baiting, but the damage was consistent. We didn't really discuss Noah, and he was the main carry, and I'm just going to pull up his scoreline at the end of that game. What did it look like? And Fnatic were ending. He was 5-1-4, and we didn't really discuss him because a lot of the attention was on Oscarinin due to the fact that he was able to just be so bulky and hard to kill that KC couldn't really get to Noah. And that is a testament to how well he played, as well as the rest of like Fnatic supporting their A tank as well as their carry. As I'm just looking at it, it's Moonstone Renewer, Redemption. Sorry, I had to look at this because the icon's grayed out. Redemption Ivan, just keeping the team top. The Nautilus Night Vow, so he was protecting his carry. Yeah, as a whole, it was a very solid game for them that Noah was quote-unquote quiet, but was the main carry for Fnatic and did well. I think Humanoid had a good game outright, and with it, Fnatic played a Fnatic game that was quiet and easy. Anyway, that's me done for today. Hope you enjoyed this breakdown a lot more focus on the breakdown rather than going insano caster mode. So, yeah, if you enjoyed it, leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new around here if you want to, and I will see you guys on a Thursday for a video, which will be, not Thursday, Friday for the predictions. So used to it being Thursday still. And then, obviously, I'm not decided yet what the matchup of the week is for next week yet, but give me time, I'll look at it. I still need to do an opening. I have it there, but I've just not set up my camera and done anything. I need to give it a little tidy up to the opening area. And with it, that's me done for tonight. See you guys later. Peace out.